I welcome you all to the lecture series of the course titled History of India from 1857 to 1947 CE. In today's lecture, we are going to discuss about Second World War and how India resisted its participation in Second World War. We need to first discuss about the outline of Second World War. To know that, the war started on 1st September 1939 with Germans' invasion of Poland. The major countries which involved in the war were Allied powers and Axis powers. On the side of Allied powers, Britain, Russia, France were initially fighting against the Axis powers, and after the Pearl Harbor attack in 1942, USA joined the war. In the side of Axis powers, it is Germany, Italy, and Japan who were fighting against the Allied powers. So the war came to end in September 2nd, 1945, with surrender of Japan, which is famously called as VJ Day. That means Victory over Japan Day. So it is necessary for us to understand the outline of this war. We cannot directly go and discuss about the resistance part of India. So it is generally needed for us all to understand who are the powers fighting against which powers. So the war started with Germany's invasion of Poland. Germany was marching towards colonization under the leadership of Hitler. This made the Allied powers to counteract against Germany, Italy, and Japan. Italy was under Benito Mussolini, and Japan was already under Hirohito, and it was modernizing itself. The countries which fought against each other were USA. USA was under the rule of FDR, who was the one who announced the war against Japan. Then it is England. From 1939, England was under Neville Chamberlain and Winston Churchill, who is also known as War Prime Minister. And Soviet Union was under the rule of Joseph Stalin. It is a communist form of government. Lenin was succeeded by Joseph Stalin. So as we have already discussed, Adolf Hitler was leading Germany. He was the leader of Nazi party. That's why the term Nazism came into the dictionary. And in the side of Italy, it was fascist party under Benito Mussolini. And in Japan, Emperor Hirohito was modernizing Japan, and he wants to capture China and colonize the parts of Asia. So with a synonymous agenda, all three powers started doing colonization, which led to the Second World War. The major causes of the World War were, first cause was the Treaty of Versailles. Treaty of Versailles was signed in 1919 after the defeat of Germany by France, Britain, and Russia. This defeat turned into an insult for Germans. This was used by Hitler to instigate the emotions of Germany and people of Germany. So this led to an enmity towards France. Second reason was Nazism and fascism. The growth of Nazism and fascism came as an immediate medicine for the Great Depression, which happened in 1929. This efficiency increased the belief on their leaders. So Nazism and fascism turned into a propaganda material to make the Germans fight against the Allied powers. Third important causes called as Leberstrom. Leberstrom is an expansionist policy of Germany. This was followed by Hitler. And last, it is League of Nations, which the failure of League of Nations started the Second World War. The major events which need to be seen in the Second World War are: in 1939, invasion of Poland by Germany started the war. Britain and France declared the war against Germany. Hitler, on the other side, he returned back with an counter war. France fell in 1940, which threatened the position of Britain. In 1941, Hitler committed the gravest mistake of all, known as the Operation Barbarossa, which is the invasion of USSR. This is the turning point in the European war, because this is the same mistake which was committed by Napoleon Bonaparte. The invasion of Russia led to the defeat of Axis powers in Second World War. Next important event which turned the tide was the attack on Pearl Harbor. This made US to enter the war. Emperor Emperor Hirohito committed a mistake by attacking the naval fleet of USA in Pearl Harbor, which led to made the USA to make war against the Japan. In 1942, the Battle of Stalingrad and Battle of Midway became the turning point in the war. As I said before, the invasion of USSR is the blunder mistake done by Hitler, where after the Battle of Stalingrad, the Russians started fighting back against German. German forces were defeated. The scorched earth policy of Russia was successful in pushing German army back into Germany itself. And on both the sides, from the side of France and the side of Russia, both the sides, German was surrounded and it was cornered. In 1944, D-Day was announced by Britain, which is the united attack of Allied powers against Germany, Italy, and Japan. Lost in 1945, Germany was captured and Hitler committed suicide in his bunker. In Japanese side, 2 destructive nuclear bombs were dropped on Hiroshima and Nagasaki, which led to a mass destruction and surrender of Japan. So, nationalists, including the Indian National Congress and Muslim League for Self-Governance, led to the offering of dominion status to India, and a constituent assembly would be set up after the war. The Constituent Assembly will draft a constitution, but the members and how the members will be elected to the Constituent Assembly was vaguely defined by Lord Linlithgow. August Offer faced a huge criticism from the side of Indians who demanded complete independence, not the dominion status for India. Gandhi started individual satyagraha against the British officers. The Indians were called for an individual satyagraha where first individual satyagrahi was Vinoba Bhave, and main duty of the individual satyagrahi is to resist individually rather going into a mass movement. Indian National Congress rejected the offer and Mahatma Gandhi criticized it as a post-dated check. For the very first time, the right of Indians to frame their constitution was recognized and demand of Constituent Assembly was conceded. In 1941, Viceroy's Executive Council was expanded and 8 out of 12 members were Indians. This paved the way for the constitutional negotiations like Cripps Mission. Next major incident which made Britain to go and offer a deal to India was the Japan's attack on the Pearl Harbor. The Japan's attack on the Pearl Harbor to defeat and destroy the US Army fleet made America to enter the war. Franklin Delano Roosevelt, who was the president of USA at that particular time, was made a heroic speech in Congress to wage war against Japan. This resolution was passed and America waged war against Japan. The most famous admiral of Japan, Admiral Yamamoto, said that you have awakened a sleeping giant. Giant, which he addressed, USA was addressed as giant by Yamamoto. Yamamoto believed that it will turn the tide of the Second World War. Japan, Allied powers were facing a defeat till this point. The tide changed after the entry of America into Second World War. And this, to avenge the attack of the Pearl Harbor, America dropped 2 mass destructive nuclear bombs over Hiroshima and Nagasaki, which killed millions of people in Japanese soil. So the Japan's invasion of China and Japan's invasion of Indochina created a tension for Britain. Once Burma falls, it is the next stop for Japanese army is India. So it was necessary for the British to get the friendship of India. That's why a new mission was sent to India called as Cripps Mission. Under Stafford Cripps, the mission was sent to India to make an alliance with the Indians and promise the Indian independence. So we will discuss about the Cripps Mission and Indian National Army in the third part of this lecture series. Thank you. Thank you for